I can't see anything. Amazing. Way to be blind. Hello everyone, and thanks so much for tuning into my channel this week. Now before I move any further, you know what I'm going to do. If you like this video, please be sure to click like, and if you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. There is also a new addition. There is a bell. If you look at the upper right hand of the screen, you'll notice there's a bell there. Please click that bell because it's going to give you an alert every time I've released a new video and there's any new content. Also, if you like this particular video, you can always check out my blog. Remember, the blog has moved to a new address. It is xhenleyspennies.blogspot.com. And if you would like to contact me, you can also contact me via my website with this slight name change. It is xhenleyconsulting.weebly.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will move on into this week's topic. So we're going to go ahead and move right into this week's topic. So this week's topic is actually inspired by a conversation that I was having with a friend who is also a teacher. We were talking about conversations that are overheard. You may have overheard it in the teacher lounge. You may have overheard it at a PD or something like that. But this always pops up. There's always a conversation when someone says, "Oh, you know what? These kids can't. Our kids can't." And that is the worst thing to say if you are an educator. The phrase, it makes my skin crawl. So I decided to go ahead and write a blog. And in this particular blog, I'm going to address things to help you reset that mindset that these kids can't. Because the fact of the matter is, we all can't do something. And we learn how to do it because someone shows us how to do it. So it's your job as a teacher to turn things that kids can't do, because they may not legitimately know how to do something. It's your job to show them how to get those things done. So you just stay tuned to this video. I'm gonna give you 6 tips or 6 things to help you shift that mindset of these kids can't and turn it into these kids can. Number 1, are you scaffolding? And I'm always amazed by how many times this actually happens, but teachers will put an essay, a report, a project, some major thing in front of kids and kind of expect them to get it done. But they haven't really provided any scaffolds that will enable them to actually do it. So let's say, for example, you have a science report that the kids have to do, and it needs to be done in a week, and you get them and they haven't been done. Did you actually put any scaffolds in place? Did you explain to students how to pull out key evidence, how to use resources? Did you go through all the skills that they needed to go and use that they needed to do and scaffold all those skills along the way so that they were able to do that final product? So you really need to think about that before you look at all of your data and you say, "Oh my gosh, all these kids failed this assignment. I just don't know what it is." You need to go back and look at the assignment. Like I said, have you scaffolded that particular assignment so that it was actually accessible to your kids? Number 2, are you differentiating? That's also a big thing. We all learn in different ways. I always tell people, and I tell my kids all this all the time, I'm a visual learner. If you talk to me and you tell me all kinds of things and explain things to me, it's really difficult for me to understand them. But if I can read them and actually see them, that's much easier for me to understand. The same thing with our kids. Are you actually differentiating instruction so that it's something that's accessible to them? Are you making sure you incorporate different learning styles into each of your lessons so that different kids can actually access the content? So again, it may not be that these kids can. It really may be you aren't differentiating. So there are kids who can. You just aren't showing them how to do it in a way that they best understand. Number 3. Now, number 3 actually reminds me of Rita Pierson's TED Talk, which I think we've all seen at a PD at least one time. But number 3 is, are you getting to know your kids personally? Now, Rita Pierson in her TED Talk, which I've actually linked into the blog, she actually says something really powerful. She says that kids don't learn from people that they don't like. And that was such a powerful statement. Are you getting to know your kids? Kids will shut down, and if they get to your class, if they feel as if you don't care about them, if they feel as if you personally you don't like them, or you're unhappy in your position, you really need to internalize that and make sure you get to know kids, and so they're getting to know you. Do you know how many siblings that your students have? Do you know the hobbies that they have? Do you know any of the dreams or aspirations? We really need to make sure we're doing that relationship building piece with kids, because so much of what they learn is just how they receive it from you. Just like we are looking at them every day, they're sitting on the opposite end. They're sitting in a desk, at a chair, and they're looking at you for, if it's high school, maybe 45, 50 minutes, maybe an hour and a half a day. And if it's middle school or elementary school, those kids can be looking at you all day. So you really need to think about, am I getting to know my kids? Am I really putting my best foot forward? Am I really showing up with a positive attitude every day and just really giving them my best? Because that's something that can really dramatically impact the success of your students in your class. Number 4. Now, number 4, I'll raise my hand as saying that I'm guilty for this one. But are you using content that you like or that they like? I am notorious for this. 1984 is my favorite book, and you better believe my kids always read 1984. But again, 1984 was my favorite book. And there are kids who, of course, did not like 1984. So are you doing the same thing? Are you giving kids things that you love? Are you showing them things that you feel that they really need to know? Or are you really getting to know your kids and your population and making sure you're giving them what's best for them so that it's most accessible for them? Because realistically, there are things we have to learn that just aren't entertaining. But I know how difficult it is to read through a text that I didn't really want to read. And if there's another text or another way to show kids something that will still allow them to access the skill, then you should probably make a change so that you're giving your kids content that they actually like. Number 5. Number 5 is the teacher phrase that I hate the most, but it's really important. But are you using data to drive your instruction? And I know we hear this all the time, so much so that you want to pull your hair out when you hear someone say DDI, right? But it's true. Are you using data to drive your instruction? Are you giving kids feedback consistently? Are you giving them formative assessments consistently? Are your summative assessments really summative assessments that assess the skills? Are you using the data that the kids have from those big state tests, those district tests? Are you using that to really help you make a decision from week to week? Because if you aren't, you may say, oh, these kids really don't understand this. They really aren't getting this. But it could be if you just looked at that formative assessment, or if you were giving feedback or grading consistently, you would notice that there was a gap. And you could just fill that gap, which will easily make something accessible for kids. So you really need to ask yourself, am I really using data to my advantage? Or am I just kind of collecting it and just making sure grades are updated, doing all these things for more compliance issues than anything? And number 6 addresses more classroom management, because that's still something that we hear, oh, these kids can't, this is just how. The question really is, do you have routines and procedures in place? Because another thing that always happens, you'll have one class, as an example, let's say my third period class is just always bananas when I have them. But when I walk into another classroom, the kids are angels. So clearly something can be done. So you really need to figure out, what am I doing as far as my classroom management? Do I have routines and procedures in place that are consistent, that are fair, that kids really know that if they do something, they'll be rewarded. If they don't do something, that there will be a consequence that actually matches the behavior. So you have to step back and really reflect. Do I have my routines and procedures in place so that I can really move forward and get the things done that I need to get done? And it is recap time. So I'm going to quickly recap those 6 things to think about. So when we're trying to change can't to can. Number 1, are you scaffolding your assignments? Are you ensuring that you have put the right scaffolds in place so that kids can actually access all the skills they need to access, so that they can actually produce the assignments that you need them to produce? Number 2, are you differentiating your instruction? Are you teaching everything the same way day in, day out, but expecting different results? Number 3, are you getting to know your kids personally? That relationship building piece is key when you really want kids to be successful in your classroom. Number 4, are you using content that you like or that they like? Because realistically, if you really love it, but they don't really like it, or they can't really understand it, they won't be able to access it and they won't experience success with it. Number 5, are you using data to drive your instruction? So are you using formative assessments consistently? Are you providing feedback consistently? Are you updating your grades consistently? Are you using all this information in your weekly lesson planning so that you're hitting those gaps so that kids can experience success? And number 6, do you have routines and procedures in place? So there are so many routines and procedures that need to be put in place for all kinds of things we're doing in our classrooms so that kids can experience success. So are you doing that? Do you have fair routines and procedures in place? And are you consistent with how you actually use those in your classroom day to day. Again, everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this week's video. You already know what's about to happen. So if you like this particular video, please be sure to hit like. And if you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. One new thing, if you haven't done this already, please hit the little bell in the upper right hand corner of the screen, because that way you're going to be alerted every time I have a new video and every time I have new content. If you like this video and you really want to read the blog, and I will tell you this, I do have links for all kinds of things in this particular blog, so I really recommend you check that out. You can find that at xhenleyspennies.blogspot.com. And if you'd like to contact me, you can contact me via my website at xhenleyconsulting.weebly.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this week, and I look forward to seeing you next time.